Welcome to Film and Page. I'm Dominic, and this is another episode of Road to Dune. So we have some Dune news to talk about, and this is actually kind of like an obvious thing, so it's not huge news, but let's get into it. So this article is from Collider. Dune, Denis Villeneuve confirms that Feyd-Rautha will appear in the sequel. Well, it would be pretty stupid if he didn't, but anyway, let's see what they have to say. Dune purists fear not. Director Denis Villeneuve has confirmed that Feyd-Rautha, an antagonistic character from Frank Herbert's novel, will appear in the Dune sequel. Given the mass of the Dune lore, it would have been a heavy lift to include another character, especially one of such significance in the first film. The character's relatives, notably Baron Harkonnen and Rabban, have a large presence in the first film that is expected to carry into the sequel. Villeneuve spoke about the sequel in a recent interview with Empire. When answering whether Feyd would be included, he said the following. Definitely. That's a choice that I personally brought on. There was enough characters that were introduced in the first part, and it will be more elegant to keep Feyd for part 2. It will be definitely a very, very important character in the second part. Rumors have run rampant amongst Eternals fans who want Barry Keoghan to take on the role opposite Chalamet. The two young talents have taken several pictures together, as both actors' stars have been on the rise in Hollywood for quite some time. Keoghan was even asked about working with Villeneuve and Chalamet by Eric Eisenberg of Cinema Blend, with the actor saying he would love to if given the opportunity. His take on Druig, particularly at his introduction in Eternals, certainly evokes prowess and slyness of Feyd as written by Herbert. So I had to look this actor up because I haven't seen Eternals, so I didn't know who they were talking about in the article. So this is Barry Keoghan, and he's around like 29 years old, I think, but he does look a lot younger than 29. He doesn't look like he's almost 30. And that's the thing, Feyd in the book is supposed to be, I think, roughly around the same age as Paul. He might be like a year older or something, I think. Like Paul starts out as 15 and Feyd is 16 at the beginning of the novel. So they're supposed to be very close in age because, if you remember in the book, Paul was supposed to be a girl, and he was supposed to be, or if he was a girl, that's who he was supposed to be. The Atreides' daughter was supposed to be wed to Feyd-Rautha, and that would have sealed the breach of the two bloodlines, and their offspring was supposed to be a male. And that was supposed to be the Kwisatz Haderach. That's how the Bene Gesserit plan was supposed to play out. But Jessica threw a loop into the whole thing and had Paul had a boy one generation early. So that kind of screwed everything up. So in the past, obviously, Sting played Feyd-Rautha in the 84 version, and then Matt Kiesler in the 2000 miniseries. And that's the thing when I go back and watch the David Lynch one, like Sting was like way too old to play the character. Even Kyle MacLachlan, he didn't look like a teenager. He looked like he was 25. He was 25 at the time. He was the same age Timothée Chalamet is now when he played Paul Atreides in the new film. But Kyle MacLachlan looked a lot bigger and he looked older, where Timothée Chalamet, even though he's 25, it's a little bit more easier to buy him as like a teenager because he's very small framed and stuff, and that's a lot more, he like matches the book description a lot closer. So far he's like the best on-screen Paul Atreides. And then the guy from the miniseries, 2000 miniseries, he looked like he was like 35 years old trying to play a teenager. That wasn't like the best casting for that one. But they got a little bit closer with Feyd because Matt Kiesler looked quite a bit younger than what Sting did, because Sting looked like he was 35. So, like, I don't know, this is not something I really gave a lot of thought to about who I would personally want to see played Feyd-Rautha. I can't really think of anyone off the top of my head. I guess the only thing when I think about who it is, it should be someone who's young looking. So they could, because they're supposed to be like the equivalent to Paul, or almost like a mirror image of Paul. But someone who's kind of like sly looking and has a devious look and can play a really good villain. Need someone like that to play Feyd-Rautha. So, like, this isn't big, huge, massive news, but it is a little bit of an interesting thing. I mean, it's very obvious that Feyd was going to be in part 2, along with Princess Irulan and the Emperor. When we saw that, when I was covering all the casting for the first film, that was the one thing that remained a mystery, was who was going to play Feyd and who was going to play the Emperor and Princess Irulan, and that news never came out because they weren't in part 1. And so now obviously they're going to be in part 2. So, and I mean, there's no way that Feyd wasn't going to be in the second one. Like, just no way that was going to happen, because he is like a key player in the second part. And it was kind of easy to leave him out of part 1, because when you read the book, he only has really one appearance in the first half. You don't really see him much again. You kind of actually see Raban a bit more until you get into the second half of the book. Then you kind of see more of Feyd. So it'll be interesting to see if they do part 2. Will they introduce Feyd when he's doing the in that gladiator arena where he's kind of like showing off, and then that's another way they could bring in Count Fenring and Lady Fenring into the movie, which I really hope those two characters are actually in part 2, because that was something that was omitted from the 1984 Dune. He did make an appearance in the 2000 miniseries, but I really hope that he ends up in part 2 as well. That would be really cool. So that's everything I got to say in this video. Let me know what you think in the comments section, and I will see you at the next one. I'd like to say thank you to all of my subscribers. I appreciate you all in helping this channel grow. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Also, don't forget to hit the bell icon so you'll be notified when new videos are uploaded.